I'm going to take you guys to the bottom line of the church. The church is reporting a proposed budget of negative $42,502, and that's on page 37. Page 37. So we are proposing a loss of $42,502 for the church. The school on page 41, they're proposing a net loss of $78,421. And on page 44, the preschool is proposing a net profit of $61,179. Overall, on page 45, that gives us a summary. We are proposing a 28 budget of a net loss for all three, church, school, and preschool, of $59,745 loss.
We'll take questions at this time. Chris.
Was at the meeting yesterday, and but I didn't notice this. We talk about that we would love to see youth in our pews. We'd love to see youth running around. We assigned $200 to the youth board for this next year. That's ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. I think that whoever should relook at this budget and find some more money. I found some, and as a matter of fact, I texted someone who said they would match the $200 if that's even possible. I think we need to look at this budget again. Carrying a deficit this huge with no solutions is unbelievable.
Thank you, Chris. I do want to say, however, a lot of these programs that we provide, the congregation does help out quite a bit. And we're able to have these youth programs from donations from congregation.
Any other questions? Yes, Pastor.
Apparently my mic is being weird. As we were discussing some of these things after the final budget numbers were put together, I think I found a change that can be made that would help a significant amount. And it is on page 37, the line 7502-1, Pastor's Community Assistance. A couple of people have made me aware that they're willing to support that directly with offerings over and above their normal giving. So I'm proposing that be deleted or cut down to $1,000 from $6,000. So I'd like that to be included in the motion to move forward. So that will reduce our church income and loss from $42,502 to $37,502. Along with this, I think we'd like to make a challenge. Rich, who's on our stewardship board, Rich Johnson and I have been talking about this, and Shirley and I have been talking about it too. And we've made all the cuts that we can make. We have done quite a bit of cutting in our church budget and inviting people to, or told people they have to pay more for their benefits. We've cut back some hours significantly on people. So the budget you're seeing has been gone through by lots and lots of people. But what we need to do, and what Rich and I in stewardship are proposing, is a significant increase in activity in our stewardship program and drive, looking at cottage meetings and inviting people to come together and share the vision and significantly increase their giving. Shirley and I have decided to increase ours by 2% of our total income, and that with I'm not great at math on this, but I think it's around a $1,700 increase in giving directly. And if we can challenge one another to dig deeper and find ways to promote that among ourselves, that's how the church grows. We can't sign up more students. We can't do anything like that. It's all dependent on the membership and on the growth. That's what the TRC is all about, and we'll talk more about their programs later under new business. But that's a challenge that our family is making, and as leaders in the church, we're going to step up and say, this is the direction I think we should go. The same old stuff is not going to work. It's a continued slide that isn't sustainable. And I think Chris is exactly right. We can't do this budget. This cannot continue. We've exhausted all of our endowment funds that we can take loans out of. The rubber is hitting the road now. So that's my suggestion, that we increase our giving significantly, and we're starting it.
Thank you, Pastor. Any other questions, please? Yes, Paul.
Well, 2 points. One is the challenge that Pastor suggested there of increasing giving by 2% of income. I want to make the point that wasn't of 2% of giving, but 2% of income. And I think that would increase, if that were average across the congregation, that would probably be an increase of at least 25% of the offering, that 4011. Is the Stewardship Board stepping up to a major campaign where that would be an increase of 20% instead of 7%?
That's a possibility. I can't speak for the board. I can speak for myself. That's kind of. I'm trying to be. I'm trying to be funny. Yes, but no. I think this is a collaborative effort between Pastor and myself. But we'll take it under advisement. Yes, 20% would be. Or are you suggesting that we vote for 20% today? Well, it's up to it's up to this people voting on this budget. If somebody votes for 20, or somebody makes a motion for 20%, we will, and this body passes it, we can do our best to achieve it. That's all I can say.
The second question I have is on the youth board is, let's see, is Barbara here? Barbara, are you planning a program that anticipates offsets by contributions from the congregation? Or is that $200 the extent of the program?
$200. As far as I know, the $200 is probably just for normal things that might come up. And I think like overnight, but we have a lot of donations for that too, so that's why it's not in the budget. Other than that, there's one, what do you call those when they go away? I can't think of it right now. Retreat of some kind, and that I believe is going to be close to $1,000, but I'm not sure what the cost on that was either.
Well, is that something that should be reflected?
It was not put in the budget, and I think it was not added to the budget, but I believe that they were hoping that they would have some fundraisers and possibly get something from the parishioners at that time. So it was not necessarily a budgeted item.
Last year, the deal went out and they raised sufficient money for their retreat. If I recall, Ann, do you remember how much came in for the retreat? I know I think we raised enough through a special offering.
Okay. When the youth board was discussing the budget for this year, it was much higher. We reduced it down because we looked at the church rather than just ourselves. And we said for the sake of the church, we need to lower it. We've already met with the youth. We have some plans that will not touch the finances of the church on how they can grow. They also are working on plans on how to bring revenue to the church, not cost them anything. So they're already working on it. As far as the retreat, we have some money tucked away in the designated funds where someone donated towards the retreat last year. We didn't have to use that. So the youth board is covered financially, and they have great plans already in place for this year to help out the church finances and to do activities that will not be deficit to the church finances. Does that answer your question, Chris? We're good. Okay? We're not going to drop them.
Yes, Rich.
About the designated funds, there's a lot of money there.
Could you use the mic, please?
I'm going to talk to microphone, Rich.
People that owe us money, and it could be back rent, could be tuition. Nobody owes us money? That's my question.
We actually don't have a formal accounts receivable for the school that's kept like in-house. That $20, Rich, is only for the renters, and they're ahead by $20 at this point. They have a credit on one account. So I don't know the numbers for accounts receivable for the school.
Give us 1 second.
My father-in-law, Virgil. Can I?
Okay, as of December 2017, it looks like the total accounts due is $8,717.06. That is the preschool only.
I'm hoping it's all collectible debt.
Okay, and how about the school?
$13,701.
I'm wondering, Paul has suggested a 20% increase based off of 20% of the budgeted, of the actuals of 2017, which is 251,950. That 20% adds up to 50,390. Now, if we add the 50,390 to the projected budget, we're now looking at roughly 300, a budget that we would be approving in terms of income, projecting 387,215. I'm wondering if that's realistic, and the reason I'm wondering if it's realistic is we had church income of 328,453 in 2017, with an average church attendance of 113. So we're looking at fewer people making up that $50,000. Back in 2000 and let's say 2012, we had church income of 318,000, and we were averaging 152 people per week. So more people were coming, but they were giving less. We still have people at 113 who have really done a remarkable job in giving. And now we're going to ask them, and I understand Pastor saying they're going to go 2%. But we are and now he's saying an additional 30%, that's 50,000. So I'm not going to do the math right now, but let's look at 113 divided into 50,390, and that's how much per person. And when we factor in attendance numbers of 113, we're counting heads. So if that head is a 4-year-old, they're getting counted as part of that 113. That 4-year-old is not giving, its mom and dad is. So out of 113, we don't know how many families that is based, our financial secretary could tell us. So I'm just worried that we are being overly optimistic and somewhat unrealistic. We accepted a budget last year that was in a deficit. We continued our rate of spending, and it came up and hit us in the butt, excuse my language, but there's no other better way to say it, in October and November, and we had to borrow from the endowment fund. And now we're going to propose another budget where what's to keep us from going on the same track, even though these numbers are our budget? Do we really hold fast to it if we say something has to be done? Do we really say, no, we're not going to do that? We're not going to get the secretary a new computer because it's crashed, because we don't have it in the budget? No, we say things like that to the music department. We can't afford new music, or we say things like that to congregational life. But when it comes to our infrastructure of the church, we don't say those things. And yeah, we need the heating fixed, but can we afford it? So what are we going to do? So I really think we need to take some real hard looks at these numbers. I personally will not accept a deficit budget. I don't think that Trinity Lutheran Church can afford it. I think that the people who put this together, and this is me speaking for myself, needs to go back to the drawing board and present a balanced budget, just like the United States. We've got to have a balanced budget. It has to zero out. We can't go into it with an idea that, oh, well, we'll go ahead and increase giving and then hope for the best and pray and everything else, and then when something hits the fan, we don't know what to do. Yes, we're talking about selling property, but I have a whole thoughts on that in terms of what do we do with that money once we sell it, if there is that conversation comes up. Lots of wonderful things, but again, If we don't have a plan and a good, strong strategic plan financially for where this church is going, I think we're going to continue to sink. And I know with the Trinity Reformation, there's a lot of areas where we need to really look at. And I really think that the finance issue is just something that we really, I don't know. I just don't feel it's realistic. We can ask, and we can hope, and we can put any number we want down, and we can approve any number. But at the end of the day, at the end of the year, is the money going to be there to keep the lights on?
Well, one thing to add to that, that you factor in, I think you were going back like 10 years. Okay, well, in that time, the thing that we have to keep in mind too, I think that at least within the community, incomes have gone up fairly significantly in that time period too. And what I suspect is that we've established our giving, and one thing I would hope people look at is how does that stack up against your present income? And does that represent really the value that you put on being a member of the church here? Yeah. Chris is suggesting looking ahead to the chart that Sharon has prepared on page 51. I think this looks, if you really study this chart here, it shows what kind of potential I think we have. The first thing to note, and what this shows is how the giving units across Trinity stack up in terms of monthly giving, with the bar charts, each of the charts being years 2014, 15, 16, and 2017. The first thing to note there, one is the large bars where there's no record of giving for family units. What Sharon did in 2016 was looking across the giving units and who isn't coming or who isn't here. And so that represents the difference in that first column between 23 and 104. So one, it reinforces what somebody earlier had said, is that there are people in the community that used to come to Trinity. One of the challenges is, why are they no longer coming? The other thing is, why are they no longer giving? And then the other thing to look at is the distribution, the wide range of giving across there, going from $1 to $24 up to more than $1,000 a month. And just kind of putting it into perspective, anybody with a smartphone these days is probably paying on the order of close to, on the order of probably at least the end of that first column, beginning middle of the second column. If you're getting, average entertainment unit for a family with TV, internet, and phone, that's probably just under $200 a month. So maybe a third of those that are giving are probably giving less than what the entertainment is for the month. So we really have to put, I think, into perspective of how much value is being a member of Trinity really worth to you, and deciding based on that then what part of that is your income. And even though I think we have a large number of people are on fixed incomes and so on, I still think that there's room for giving growth within our congregation, of those even giving.
Is there any other questions? Okay, okay, if there's no other questions, we're going to propose the budget forth. As your congregational president on behalf of your council, I propose to you the 2018 corporate budget for Trinity. The budget is $1,642,507 with a $59,745 deficit. The boards, the committees, school and preschool have worked hard and long hours to cut costs. I, as your president, asked everyone to look close at the budgets and cut 15% out. After all was said and done, they have come very close to that challenge, but with increased costs, low attendance with both church and school, we are struggling to keep our doors open. With this proposed budget that is being presented to the congregation, there is a 7% pledge card giving for the year included in the budget that we are asking for you to challenge yourself to commit. Your council is asking for you to look into your hearts to adopt a balanced budget for this year by challenging you to a 1 to 2% increase in your offerings. If we challenge ourselves to do this by year's end, we would come close to a balanced budget heading into 2019, which we need to keep looking ahead to a future that will not come to where we need to close our doors on our corporation. We're also asking our congregation steps up to help our boards, committees meet their commitments and what they do for our church. We need to fill our pews, fill our classrooms, and be more involved in the church's ministries. So, yes, John.
Just kind of, excuse me, sound man, can you put me up a little bit? Okay, here we go. All right. I wanted to mention, kind of along the lines with what Ellen was saying, I look at all the numbers. We spent a long time looking at them last night, and it really is a rather dismal situation. I agree with Paul. I agree with all the things that have been said by Pastor, and really respect he and Shirley stepping up and kind of leading the way by making their declaration, and Rich and all the things that have been said. I totally understand that and I respect that. But really real world, where it looks we did the same thing roughly last year. We made all sorts of challenges the last couple of years, it seems like. But I don't know how long it'll be before we finally say, oh wow, we don't have enough to make payroll this month, and we can't pay our bills this month. This year it was November, but what is it going to be this coming year? And then it's like, hey, we need $40,000 again. Where's that going to come from? And I'm just fearful, Craig, that if we don't make some tough decisions now, today, or at least have a plan that we're going to make some really tough decisions that have to be made, then we're really going to be barking up a tree of thorns. It's going to be really a difficult year. I guess what I'm saying is we can wait and go forward and pass everything and say, okay, $50,000 budget, a minus, knowing that, I mean, it's a hopeless situation unless we decide we're going to put on our big boy pants and do what has to be done. We can balance this budget with a stroke of a pen in a matter of 5 minutes. We can balance this budget if we're not afraid to make the moves that we have to make. And so I think some of those moves that I'm talking about, I don't want to go into all sorts of detail right now, but I think you probably know any corporation, when it comes down to a situation like this, they make the tough calls. And I think we're Trinity, Corporation of Trinity, church, loving, giving, compassionate church needs to make a tough call. And I think we need to do it sooner than later. So that would be my input, Craig. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Pastor.
I did bring my big boy pants today. And even with the stewardship challenge of significant growth in giving, I think any more than a 10% projected income would be really just a fantasy. And I have some significant plans for a stewardship growth program for this year that, I mean, I've never heard of anything exceeding 10%, so I think that would be the limit of what we're going to be able to try to do. But moving forward, I can't imagine how we can not come to a corporate balanced budget. We're out of money to spend on it. We can't bail ourselves out anymore. Going into this next year, we have to make some significant cuts. I don't see how the school can move into the next school year with a $78,000 projected deficit. I do not understand how that can possibly work. I don't think the school can, or the church can continue with its projected deficits either, even with the changes I've made and additions that I've proposed. That's still almost a $40,000 loss. And we can't do that, we can't support it. Someone mentioned running out of money in November last year. It was actually earlier than that. We had a scare. The preschool had some budget issues over the summer, and that about tanked us in September. Just about did. We can't continue to work like this. We have to make some significant, real cuts. The parliamentary way that this happens is the congregation meeting here would refuse to pass the budget and charge the congregation council to come back in a month with a corporate balanced budget. That's the way that you would proceed if you don't want to pass it. We have to operate with an actual passed budget. If we can't pass it today, and I don't believe that we should, we have to bring one to you to vote on. So that's from church government point of view, this is the decision-making body that gets to decide that. And you get to tell the church council and the school board and the employees, this is what you will do. You have no choice. And we have to come back, say, in a month and do the hard work and make the hard choices and present you with a balanced budget. So that's typically how a church would handle a situation like this. We tried doing it on our own. What you have in front of you is our best shot, and it's sad. It's because we can't make those hard choices. People aren't able to say, oh, I'm sorry, we're going to have to lay you off. Your decision to not accept the budget and make us come back with a balanced one means you're telling us to do that. We have no choice. That's pardon the phrase, the nuclear option. And that's what happens from here. So that's my pastoral input on this.
Is there any questions? Yes, Nancy.
Thank you. Maybe not a question as much as a comment. We barely touched on that $100,000 plus that we're going to be receiving from the Linux Virtual Academy. These are monies that can turn our school around. I understand they can't be considered part of the budget. I understand we can't say that $100,000 is going to offset the $78,000 deficit. That makes logical, mathematical sense to me. However, I feel like we're really ignoring a potential right here, right now. That money is already starting to come in. We've received almost half of it already. These monies can be used to improve our school and take it into the 21st century. We have dreams of a STEAM lab that Fran has been looking into. I've had thoughts of a makerspace, things that can get kids excited, that can bring families in. We have so much potential to offer more from our school and seriously double our enrollment. I feel like if we doubled our school's enrollment, and that's not going to happen overnight, and it's not going to happen in 1 year either, but the potential is there. Our hands have been tied for so many years with the budgets and the economy downturn and just lack of facility, not lack of facility, that's something that Trinity actually has plenty of. We have classrooms and we have space. But as Craig said, they're not being utilized because we haven't had money to really turn them into the showcases that they should be. Our students deserve it, and there's kids in this community that deserve it as well. I've seen great things just since I've been at Trinity. I remember when Ellen spearheaded the effort to make our parking lot better and to make it more school-friendly and more kid-friendly. And I now see the results of that. So I actually have great hope. I understand concerns, and the budget looks pretty grim, but I see a real room for growth at our school and our church.
Yes, Pastor. Thank you, Nancy.
Thank you for that, Nancy. I agree with you 100%. However, we've been here before. 10 years ago, we put our last best effort, we put hundreds of thousands of dollars into rebuilding the school, and this was going to be our final attempt at doing it. And we are, with all of the best efforts of dozens and dozens of people and hundreds of thousands of dollars, we're no better off than we were. And in many ways, we're worse financially. We tried. And so we need to come up with a plan to get this done and get this done right. I think the monies that were presented in the budget from the Linux Virtual Academy also had offsetting expenses and did nothing to help your bottom line. We have to fix the bottom line. We can't continue with a $78,000 deficit. Corporately, we can probably find a way to bring it in balance, but we have to be so careful. We need a $0 balance in the budget. We can't sustain any more loans, any more losses. We have to move forward carefully, and we have to make some hard choices. And just saying, well, we could double. Do you know how many times I heard that exact phrase 10 years ago? It was so painful to see all of our hard work it was like trying to sell ice to an Eskimo when the economy collapsed here. No offense to Alaskan indigenous natives, but that's the phrase. Time after time after time after time, I hear people say, I'd love to keep my kids in this school, but their finances are poor enough, it's that or fix the car, that or live in their own apartment. How can we go forward again and again? 10 years has been a long slog. And it's nice you have some finances now to work with, but it doesn't really help your bottom line. You're going to offset every money that you spend with an expense. And there's still that $78,000 looming. We've rated the preschool as much as we can, and that's a big help, but we have to fix the bottom line. And we're still, even corporately, we're still $50,000 almost in the hole. We have to fix that. We can't, there's nowhere else we can draw on money to do that. Even using the LVA money, the Lennox money, you're going to spend it. It's not going to fill the budget hole. You're going to spend all that money, right? Got all these great things you want to do. I agree, let's do great things, but let's fix our budget, and that may mean we're going to have to do some cutting, and it means we're going to have to put a challenge for growth giving to our congregation, and some people are not going to like the decisions that have to be made. I already don't. So, thank you, and I agree completely, but we still have to have a balanced budget, and we've been there before.
Thank you, Pastor. Any other questions?
Oh, you're in trouble. I have the mic. Lennox money, I heard for the first time last Monday how they're planning to spend it. It is sustainable. It is something that we get the word out. We could build up the enrollment, and I think it's really feasible. I think the way you guys are looking at this is extraordinary. And there's other ways too, as coding, bring in a 3D printer. That's part of your STEAM program, and I know you can get that. Pastor has brought up about the legal implications about it. I've been involved in public education for many, many years, as some of you know, and I just reviewed the budget for Lawndale School District, and I will tell you, those Chromebooks came out of taxpayers' money. The money that's coming here originally came from taxpayers' money over here from Lennox. They're going to be audited. Their books get audited once a year. It's mandatory by state law, and there's a good chance that they'll come over here and say, tell us how those taxpayers' money is being spent. So I'm kind of aware of that. That's why I'm keeping it in a fund. It is going to be closely monitored and make sure that it follows the children, just like Pastor said. So we can't muddy up the water by putting in the general fund. It's like putting a cup of coffee in there. It's going to spread out, and we can't track it anymore. So we're going to monitor that money very carefully, but that's not part of the everyday budget that Pastor's talking about. My daughter goes to a school up in Lancaster, or to a church, I'm sorry. It happens to be a Baptist church, but nonetheless, it's okay. They have a school of 300 children. They all have to be members of the church. They only pay $300 a month for tuition. She walks into the classrooms. They have chalkboards, not smart boards. They have the old-fashioned desks. It's not how pretty the room is, it's what you're learning inside the room that counts. And especially in a Baptist or a Lutheran school, is that Christ is in their lives. So we need to really focus on that. And the last thing, and it's really grim, part of the reason that we're in there is because the state of California keeps raising the minimum wage. That's really good for those people who are working at minimum wage, especially those people, but we aren't a revenue-generating corporation. We can't turn right around and just mandatorily raise our offerings or the price of hamburgers or Happy Meals or anything else to cover that minimum wage. We have 13 hourly employees right now at minimum wage. That means next year, and Karina and I worked out the numbers, that's automatically a $13,000 increase to our expenses that we can't control. And we cannot cut back the hourly wages at preschool because they have to have a ratio of so many teachers per student. So it's not like we can go in there and just cut all those employees out. We have to have them employed to take care of all those children. So next year it goes up $1. That's $2,080 for any full-time hourly employee. After that it goes up another $1 and another $1 and another $1 till 2022. This is an ongoing thing for the church. It's not just a one-time look at this and see what's going on. It's going to be an increase in our expenditures every year that we cannot control. So to save time, because we already have 4 people who signed out, we no longer have a quorum of 50 in the room, I would highly suggest that we adjourn this meeting and that we have the church council meet at least once a week, the leaders, someone for each council or each board meets. We come back with another budget on February 24th for the congregation to look at.
Ann? Am I hearing you making a motion to move to February 24th? Yes, Ellen?
I get where Ann is coming from, and I agree with her, but I think just so that things are, we've had a lot of discussion on the budget, but I still think that if we're going to postpone it, I really think that we should still have a vote, so it goes on the record that we voted, it wasn't passed, if it doesn't pass, and so that we have that protocol in place, and then move, if it doesn't pass. Yeah, well, we can't vote because we don't have a quorum. Oh, forgive me, I'm sorry. I'll shut up.
Greg, I move to adjourn.
Second.
So, am I hearing the congregation does not want to take a vote on the budget at this time?
There was a motion, I moved to adjourn, and there was a second. I don't know if you want to act on that or discuss beforehand. There is not a quorum here. Ann said there's not a quorum. We can't vote on it anyway. That's what Ann said. 4 people have left.
Yes, John?
We started the meeting with 50 people, the right, the proper number according to our constitution, our bylaws, or
Is this yours?
50 people. We have 50 people that signed in, walk in here. If somebody chose to go to the bathroom, or they had to go home early because it was running too late, I don't care. We have 50 people that signed in for us, for this meeting, is what we did. And second,
49 people leave, one person can decide.
Yeah, that motion is on the
Point of order, if there's no quorum,
We're in a little bit of uncharted water. We have technically a record of 50 people being in attendance. Somebody had to leave. Someone had to take their parents to the hospital. That kind of stuff happens all the time. We met the criterion for a vote, and so I think we're legally okay. When the treasurer submits the budget for approval, that is a motion to approve the budget, and the congregation then is to second it and vote it up or down. I don't think we're going to make any decisions that change anything in an earth-shattering way at this point. So calling for the question on the budget as presented.
Yes, John?
that's calling for a vote, calling the question to the top here, and asking that we now vote up or down on the budget, as presented.
Okay, there's a call on the floor to make a motion to vote on the budget for 2018. Who said second?
Gary Dixon, second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye. All those opposed say nay.
Nay.
Those who abstain be heard. The motion does not carry. Okay, with the vote of nay on the budget, the council moves that we move to March 4th, 2018, to come back for the budget after second service, which would be what, 12 p.m. Is there a second on the floor for the February 26th date? Or March 4th, I'm sorry.
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye. Yeah. For the next date? The motion is to come back on March 4th at 12 p.m. to bring a balanced budget to the congregation. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Those who abstain be heard. The motion will carry. Okay, so what is your motion? Move to adjourn. I'd like to entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
Who second? We're adjourned.